Welcome back to the What's New Mama podcast. We are your hosts, Amy and Giselle.
Hi.
And today we have a very interesting topic, actually, that we were discussing just before coming on air here.
Yeah.
It's the married single mom.
What it is to be a married single mom, or the terminology, right? Like, what does that mean? Which is, I saw it floating around. I don't have TikTok, but it goes into Instagram, and I'm like, what is that? And I was like, oh my God, I know people that feel this way. I know what that is. So we felt like it would probably be a good idea to kind of cover what that means, and we'll talk about our experience, obviously.
Mm-hmm. Not that we're married single moms.
Yeah, like we were obviously talking about, we were like, that's a good topic. But then we were like, I don't know, because we don't feel like we're in that situation. So should we talk about it? But I feel like this is our genre. This is what we talk about. Things relating to motherhood. So it pertains to us regardless, right?
Yeah.
So I wanted to pull it up just to see. So I have the official definition of what it is. There's different variations of it, but it's basically married single moms they are moms whose partners are hold on. There we go. Hold on. Different. Okay. That they feel alone in the relationship and feel as if they're raising their kids alone and taking care of the house chores and, the home obligations alone, even though they're married with a partner that's present, right? Quote unquote present. For those that aren't watching, I did the quote. Air quotes. So, it's interesting because to me, to get an actual term like that now, I feel like that's been around forever. I feel like every time that I've spoken to somebody, their realm is just taking care of the kids, and they feel like they can't ask their significant other for support because they're like, oh no, they were working all day, they're tired, or they're this and whatever. And the partner doesn't make an effort to try at least, right? Yeah. I think that's what it really comes down to. Are they making an effort? Are they trying? Are they, saying, hey, you know what? You made the grocery list. Let me go to the supermarket and just grab these things. Let me go and do all this stuff. So I think it's interesting that we finally have it's like a coined term now of what it means to be in that situation. I don't feel like I'm in that situation. I feel like my household is very 50-50. But that was, again, and I know I mentioned it in another episode, before we chose to have a kid, we made sure we were like, this is what we want to do as a couple. And we're making sure that it is 50-50. And when I say 50-50, it's not always an equal 50-50, right? Like some days it's 70-30, some days it's 80-20, whatever it might be. But we pick up where the other one leaves off. But I never feel like I'm doing it alone. It's a balancing act between the two. And I know you and I have different situations because Tom and I both work from home.
Yeah.
Most of the time. Sometimes I go out and I meet with clients and things like that. But it's a different dynamic because I can feed him, or Tom can feed the baby for breakfast. I could do lunch, and then we'll alternate between dinner. There's no set, you do breakfast, you do lunch, you do dinner. It's a matter of whatever works for that day, and the baby goes with it. He's flexible. There's no break in his routine because he's being fed no matter what at that set time, because we have the flexibility of, oh, I'm able to take a break right now from work, or I'm able to hop on a call and do this while I make sure that the baby's okay, whatever it might be. But with you and Vic, you're home and he's out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's out, working outside of the house while you're working in the house.
Which is nice.
Yeah. So you have that break. And that's kind of what we were talking about too, where it is needed to have that break, obviously. But do you feel, and I feel like this question is more, I guess, with you because of your situation, you guys are in different realms. Do you feel that you carry the load? Do you feel that you carry the household load and you have no support aside from financial and all that stuff, right? Because nowadays, Now, not nowadays. Nowadays it's changing, but back in the day, the tradition was, and actually my mother-in-law mentioned this yesterday. Back in the day, the tradition, what was the norm was, as long as they pay the bills, right? Your significant other, which back in the day was usually a heterosexual uh, partnership, so
Hmm.
male, female, and the man was out working
Yeah.
and the woman was the homemaker.
Hmm.
And that was the norm and that was okay. And they were not to be bothered, the men were not to be bothered with household things. By the time they got home, they were supposed to have dinner ready, set to go. Their clothes were ironed and set to go for the
Hmm.
next day and all that stuff, right? So, in your situation, because you're a stay-at-home mom,
Yeah.
your work is in the household,
Yeah.
right? And taking care of the kids, raising humans, small human beings, and your husband goes out into the field and
Hmm.
does his job out there. Do
Yeah.
you feel that the single mother, the single married mother applies to you in any way?
I mean, I guess if you're looking at it from someone that knows me, like looking at it from like the outside, you would think because
Yeah.
I'm always
You'd
home.
automatically assume,
Yeah,
yeah.
because I'm always home. I'm always with the kids. I'm always doing stuff with them. But I personally, I don't feel that way.
Yeah.
Just because I do take, and I think I've mentioned it before
Mm-hmm.
in other podcasts where I've said sometimes it just happens where we're not always going to be 50-50,
Yeah.
right? We can't always be 50-50.
Yeah.
There's always going to be a time where either he'll take more of the load, it'll be 80-20,
Yeah.
or vice versa.
Yeah.
And at this point, I'm probably around 70-30. I would
So who's
say
70? Who's
I'm
30?
70, he's 30,
Okay. Okay.
because it's just the way like his job requires him to be out.
He works
So,
crazy
I
long
mean,
hours and
so
stressful too.
in the morning, but he's very good at when he is here, he is present. He
Yeah.
does everything and anything to get the kids out
Oh,
of
so
my
he's not
hair.
on his phone, or now that football
No,
season has started, he's not like,
no,
don't
he'll watch
interrupt.
it. It's in the background, but he's
Yeah.
playing with Milo, or he's
Yeah.
talking to Sienna, and he's doing stuff with them. He goes out, he does the grocery shopping, which
Okay.
is great because I hate it. I'm always fighting with people in the grocery store.
You're ready to throw down at the checkout line.
I'm just always like, why are you on top of me? That's usually my problem.
Okay.
So
Wait, so do you
he,
do the list or does he do the
yeah,
list?
because I cook
Because you're the
every
one,
day.
you take
So
inventory of things.
So
Yeah.
it's like, oh, I'm going to the refrigerator. I'm missing this. I'll go write it down, and I'll send him a picture, or he takes pictures of it
Okay.
to go out.
Yeah.
So he does that. He does his own laundry.
Okay.
Because I mentioned this before. He has a particular way of doing his own. Like
Yeah.
he folds it in like little teeny tiny squares because he's very very anal about it.
Oh, are we related or what? Because.
So he likes his stuff in a particular way because everything's like little
Yep.
stacks, all his little
Yep.
t-shirts and stuff. So I just let him do that, and he'll wash the kids' clothes,
Okay.
and then he'll leave me mine because I'm particular about how I put my stuff too.
Okay.
Let's see. He likes to clean up a lot, so he cleans the bathrooms. He
Okay.
does all that. He does the second level. I'll take care of the first because that's where we live
Yeah.
most of the time.
Yeah.
So I do that.
But wasn't he doing like the yard work the other day?
Yeah, he does the yard work.
Yeah.
He does. I don't do any of that stuff. Like if there's anything that needs to be fixed, maybe I put some effort into it because.
Yeah.
So I'm like the technical one.
Okay.
He's more of the brute force,
The brunt labor. Yeah.
thing. Like
Yeah.
he brings like the heavy lifting,
Okay.
so to speak, and then I'm the one who's just like thinking other methods of doing things.
Yeah.
And I think that's how we balance each other out
Okay.
in the long run. So it's like, yeah, so what? I'm taking care of the kids all day. But he's really good also at taking care of them when I need them. Like right now, he went out with Milo.
Yeah.
He's out. They went to the park. They went to get ice cream. They were eating salsa and chips at the restaurant down the street.
Oh.
Like they were just relaxing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's I don't mind that right now. I'm the one who like I'm home all the time taking care of the kids because I
Okay.
know at some point when Milo goes back to school, I'm gonna go back to work, and it's gonna be a different shift. Things are gonna shift again.
Yeah.
And I think that's what. And then we're very accepting with the shifts.
Yeah.
Like we're not like this has to be done here.
You're flexible. You have to be.
Yes, and I think that's what's important. You have to be flexible.
Yeah.
Because
That's the only way to survive.
You get upset, and then
Yeah. Yeah.
why are you gonna get upset for?
Yeah. Well, there are valid things to be upset about, but I will say the only way to survive these changes, because it's not easy raising little human beings into respectable human beings, right? Like, it's not easy doing that. And you have to make sure that you're both on the same page, that you're both flexible with whatever's changing and you adapt, because you're bringing that dynamic not just to you guys as a couple, but also to the kids.
Mhm.
And that's like, that's important in order to keep the harmony going in your house.
Mhm.
But how do you do that? So wait, because I feel like you still didn't really answer that question.
Okay.
So even though he does all those things, right?
Mhm.
Is there an area where you feel like you're carrying the load at all?
No.
No. Okay.
No.
So there
Not
you
at
go.
all.
There
I'm
you
like,
have it.
no.
Okay.
I'm like, no, not at all. Look at Giselle trying to find conflict.
No.
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 No. No. No. No.
Oh,
I
sorry. We gotta make
actually,
it a spicy podcast, like your
I know,
spicy
right?
TikTok. So.
No, I don't think so. Honestly, like I think about it and I'm like, I don't. Maybe just when it comes to like potty training, like I'm trying to potty train
Yeah.
Milo, and I wish he would just be like, "Let me do it," but that's just because I'm so frustrated with it.
Yeah. Does
Um.
So okay, so I have a question about that, because
Mhm.
I'm gonna go into that realm too.
Mhm.
With potty training with a boy, right?
Mhm.
Maybe does Vic go and be like, "Oh, I'm gonna go use the potty," like, and
Yes, he
him show
does.
him?
He does show him.
Yeah. Okay. So
And I
you
could have
have that.
asked him because I was like, "Can
Yeah.
you just show him so maybe he gets the gist of it?" But like,
Yeah.
so he'll go and show him, and it's
Okay.
funny to
So
watch because
it's
he tries to copy the same thing, and I'm like,
yeah.
"No, you can't do that right now, though. You
So
just sit."
even with that, you do have support. You do
Mhm.
have
Mhm. Yeah.
I'm not trying to find conflict. I don't want
No.
conflict. No, but okay, so then you have that part of it. Now, I know it goes beyond physical, right? There's
Mhm.
obviously the emotional aspect of it all, right?
Mhm.
Because moms carry the weight of doing the research, what the things that you're feeding your kids, like whether it's organic, not organic, whatever it is. I know we went through the whole scrunchy, silky,
Yeah.
crunchy mom thing, like, doing the research on the toys, the books,
Mhm.
the clothes that they're wearing, the products that
Mhm.
you're putting on their skin for bath time and all that stuff.
Mhm.
Who does that research? Who does that load of?
I've been doing that research. Like I've been looking at that stuff, but he'll like see stuff. Like he has like subscriptions to things, and like when they ask you what are you interested in, he has like
Yeah.
family and kids
They'll send
checked
him like
off.
a
And
newsletter.
so
Yeah.
he'll look at it and he'll be like, "Oh, did you see this?" And he'll send me like articles,
Okay.
like read
Oh, that's
this
awesome.
or whatever. So he does still like stay on top of things because he still has. So he commutes to work, and it's like a 2 hour commute.
Yeah.
So he has time from when he gets on that train to when he gets to his job that he does things where he catches up and he'll send me a whole bunch of things
Yeah.
like we haven't talked. So here, look, and this is
Yeah.
when we
Yeah.
catch up.
Yeah.
So that's what he does. So
Okay.
it's kind of a little bit of both,
No, yeah, that's
both of
good.
us.
That
Yeah.
means he's involved in all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
What about when it comes to, okay, we need to get a repairman out here to like the
Oh,
door.
so it's funny because I don't like calling
Okay.
repair people because they hear a woman and
Oh,
they're like,
yeah.
huh. They, I let them surprise themselves when they get to the door and it's me, and I'm like, well, my husband's not home, so this is the problem. But luckily, I found a repair guy that I actually like, and he's really cool. He doesn't treat you like you don't know anything. That's
Okay.
usually I had a guy, and I think I'm trying to remember
What?
where he came from.
A
He
man
came
mansplaining and
Yeah, and
condescending?
he
Oh
said
my
something
God.
stupid, and I was like, "Look, my man, I worked in construction for 5 years, and I know this, and this is wrong." So, and he was just like, "Oh, why do you need me for?" I was like, "Because I'm not gonna put my finger in that. Like, are you
Yeah.
crazy? I'm not gonna do
Yeah.
that." And
Yeah.
I wanted to slap him. But I think that only happened once with that one guy, and after that, we found this other guy, and he comes and
Yeah.
does all our work now, and he's really cool.
Okay.
And he doesn't do that. Like he'll explain it, and he's like, "I don't want to talk down to you." And he's like, "I don't want to talk down to you when I'm explaining it to it." I was
Yeah.
like, "No, I'm curious too," and like he'll say
Yeah.
everything, and I'm like, "Don't worry about the terminology. I get it. I understand it. Just give it."
Yeah.
So,
That's good.
but now we have this repair guy, so it's cool. I call him, and it's fine.
Okay. So if you want, you could put his information in the description.
But he
Give
only
him some
services my
business.
area, like the
Okay.
area.
Okay.
here.
Gotcha. Okay, so that's good. That's good. So when you have all that, oh, okay. What about, I know there's an emotional part of it. One aspect of being a married single mom, right, is you feel like you're alone. The intimacy is gone. There's like
Mhm.
all of that. So how do you feel when it comes to even you venting about like your rough day, right?
Mhm.
Obviously, I know there's times that I'll text you and you're like, oh yeah, like Vic had a really rough day at work, and you'll tell me like what happened. So I know
Mhm.
he vents to you, but
Mhm.
how do you guys carry that? Like, do you feel like it's equal? Do you feel like he hears you out and he
Yeah,
validates you with like,
he
oh
does.
my God, Milo was blah 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 today, you know?
And he's always like, I don't know how you put up with these kids. Like he'll be with them for a couple hours, and then he's like, I don't know. He's like, I don't know how you haven't left yet. And he's always like, you're doing such a good job. He's like, you're doing the best job here. So he gives like
Aw.
little encouraging bits here and there,
Yeah,
like when
yeah.
you least expect it. So it's nice. He
That's
does.
nice.
He tries very hard. And that's what
Yeah.
I was like thinking when you said the married single mom. And I'm like, I see those videos on TikTok, right?
Hmm.
And I'm looking at it and I'm like, and I understand the frustration that would bring to just be alone,
Yeah.
have a partner and be alone doing all the stuff that you have to
Yeah.
do during the day. It's like, but why don't you sit down and just talk to them? And I guess
Yeah.
if they don't want to listen to you, dump their asses because obviously you don't need them.
Yeah,
It's
but
usually my thing. I'm like, you obviously don't need them if you're doing everything already.
I understand,
And
but
sometimes financial also.
exactly. What
I know.
if, like, devil's advocate, what if
Hmm.
Vic wasn't that partner for you? What if he was dismissive? What if when he would get home and like you would tell him, oh, I need help with this, he's like, no, I was at work all day. You do
Hmm.
it. That's your job.
Hmm. Hmm.
Like, I know you would easily just slap somebody across the face if they did some shit like that to you, but you obviously can't do that, especially if you're dependent on this person financially,
Hmm.
and then you have small kids. You can't just pick up and leave.
Hmm.
So these mothers are literally trying their best to maintain the household and live with the situation.
Yeah, I know. I
Like,
think,
it's not
but I think
easy.
about it like my advice is find a job
But
quietly.
how do you find a
Start.
job?
I'm like,
Who's gonna
start
take care of the
hiding money.
kids?
Start hiding money here and there, and leave his ass quietly.
Who's gonna take care of the kids? How are
I
you gonna
mean,
work if you do?
I don't know.
You could
I
do it
don't know.
OnlyFans, right? You could do OnlyFans. No, I don't know. You could there. I mean,
I mean, there is jobs that allow you to either bring your kids or do something on the
where? What
side. Like
jobs?
you could
Now you're
probably.
just pulling shit
I'm
out your
trying to
ass
think.
right
I'm
now.
trying to think. Like my friend worked at a daycare and she was allowed to bring
Okay,
her child and leave
that's
him
cool.
there as part of the negotiation she did for getting the job.
That's awesome. Good for her.
So I think that could work in some cases if that's what you want to do.
Yeah.
Watch other fucking kids. Because that's another thing. I would never want
Well,
to watch other kids other than my own.
add more kids to the load.
Yeah.
That's the solution, right? No,
Yeah.
no,
But
but
there's
maybe
jobs and even like the work from home situations where you can do like side stuff like
yeah,
transcripting or transcribing, whatever it's called. And
yeah.
there's other things you could do. There's
No,
a
there are
few
things. There are
things.
things.
But mostly I think it's just talking, voicing your concern,
Yeah, I think that's important.
other than bitch
And
slapping, but
if they're if they're open to it, I would say
yeah.
therapy, couples
Mhm.
therapy, working through that stuff, because it's also, and this is the other thing too, like there's reasons for that. I mean,
Mhm.
Tom says, Giselle, you don't have to always figure out the reason for everything. There's like the why to everything. I was like, no, you do, because everything stems from something else. So, what did this partner experience during their childhood? Or what did they see growing up that was acceptable? Or what type of people does that person have around them that they led them to believe that this is okay? For you to have your spouse and your partner and make them feel not appreciated, like neglected, like what they do doesn't really matter
Mhm.
because it's not bringing in financial, security technically into the home. But when you look at all these things, you're like, you could easily flip all of that. Your husband, your partner, your spouse would not be able to go to work and sustain a home like that if you weren't home taking care of the kids.
Exactly.
So, it goes both ways, but to have a partner that doesn't appreciate what you do and that doesn't acknowledge the importance and the significance behind what a stay-at-home mom does or a working mom does, like, whatever the terminology is, like, that feels like shit. Like, that even if they physically help around the house, they do like their own stuff. I think the emotional aspect of it, feeling like you're alone and you're doing it all, is probably the worst possible thing, because now there's going to be resentment, right? There's going to be this underlying thing that the spouse feels, while the other one's completely oblivious. Even if they try to voice their concerns, they're like dismissive about it. So it doesn't register in their head for whatever reason. And then now you have people that are growing further and further apart. So you're living in the same household, but you might as well not be together, right? Like, it's two different worlds. So how do you mesh that? How do you, like, fix that? And I think the only way, similar to what you're saying, is you have to have a partner that's receptive. You can communicate all you want, and you could tell somebody how you feel and how their actions make you feel till you're blue in the face.
Yeah, but they have to be listening.
If they're not receptive to that, and they're constantly dismissing you,
there's no point.
There's no point, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's like pivotal to all that. And obviously, in an ideal situation, right, you make sure you know who you're stepping in the situation with, right? If you're planning on having kids, you have these type of conversations before,
which you said you had, which was it's important too to know.
And like, I laid it all out, because I always said I never wanted kids, and Tom would always say he never wanted kids. I never wanted kids until I met him, until I had, we had this dynamic, because I was scared that I was going to end up as a married single mother, because that's what happened to my mom and all the other women that my dad had kids with, for that matter, So that was always a fear of mine, and when I say there's always a why, that's the why that I'm talking about. There's always a reason, whether it's a fear, past trauma, whatever it is, or whatever you're conditioned to believe growing up, and just even as an adult. Those are the things that affect how you treat other people too. So there's that, but then there's also your own self-awareness. How do my actions impact the people I love, the people I'm around, and how can I do better? How can I listen and actually engage with this person so that they feel I'm appreciative of the work that they do? The invisible labor, right? That's also something we hear. Stay-at-home moms in general, this is invisible labor. If you put a salary, like a dollar amount on the work that we do, it's insane. I was actually hanging out with a friend of mine that I hadn't seen in years, and she doesn't have kids. She's like still in that dating and like having fun stage, but she's like, I want that eventually, but I just haven't found the right person. And I'm like, I totally get it, because that's why it took me so long to get to this point, because I just didn't want to jump into it. And we were talking about everything, and she's like, I just don't, like, the way that I look at it, I don't want to be stuck with doing all this labor and all this work and lose my life, lose myself, and not have time for me. And I feel like that's important. Those are the type of concerns that you should voice to your partner even before a kid comes along, right? And then when you think about it, whether you're raising a little boy, a little girl, whatever it is, they're taking that example that they see between the dynamic of mom and dad at home, or mom and mom, dad and dad, whatever, at home, and they're taking that as the example, the right way to do things. So if you have a spouse and you're raising little kids and you're constantly neglecting and making somebody feel like their work doesn't matter and all that stuff, that's what your kids are going to grow up acting and treating other people like, or having that type of relationship. At least that's what I think.
I think that's true. Just from the way, like you said earlier, like your dad, he wasn't there
He is the prime
for Vic.
example of everything you shouldn't look for.
This man's ears are turning red right now wherever he is. But because your brother's completely the opposite. He's so involved, and so is Ramel.
Yeah.
So it's like,
so it's
I
even
see
more.
it. It's like a complete like difference from the way your dad was with you guys.
Yeah.
You know, he's so involved. He wants, and he always tells me, he's like, I don't want to be like that guy. So I make sure that I'm here, you know, all the time for everything.
Yeah.
And then for me, it was, I had both my parents present. But, and my mom worked, believe it or not. She worked. She wasn't a stay at home at all. Yeah. She worked at the school where we went to.
Oh yeah, you mentioned that before.
So just seeing her working and coming home and taking care of the stuff. But I did notice that my dad, like now thinking back, like, oh yeah, but my dad, he was there with us, but like with the things she did at home, he didn't partake of. He wasn't doing laundry. He wasn't cooking. Cleaning. And she would get pissed off. I'm talking about very upset with him all the time. They would always fight over this stuff. Yeah. So like I saw that. Yeah. And now I'm like, you know, if I need help with something, I don't hesitate. I'll tell him, listen, I'm too tired to cook today. Can I just order food, or can you come, or whatever? Yeah. But in most instances, we're ordering out because he's not home anyway. Yeah. So, or it's like, if it's okay, because he usually takes my leftovers for dinner for the following night. Yeah. So we just work out a system. He knows I'm not cooking every day of the week, but you know,
I don't cook every day of the week. So. It won't work. It won't work. Like, we're both exhausted. So we'll do takeout. Usually it's Chipotle. That's like the go-to, somewhat healthy, organic ingredients. And it's good filling food, or pizza, which is not any of those things. But we're a big pizza household. I've had pizza for dinner for the past like 3 days. And I had like donuts and stuff. But whatever. It's a holiday weekend.
But like you said, you do see that the example that's put in front of you, and you choose whether or not you want to act that same way or
be different, be better.
Different. And I think that's a lot of us that are in this age. We're like, oh man, we don't want to be like our parents. Yeah. And we're starting to see.
You're the unicorn and you had amazing parents, and you look at that and you're like,
you had a good example.
That's what I want to be. And I think a lot of it too, like obviously religion plays a role in it. I don't want to dive too deep into all that stuff because I just don't. But it does, because there's very traditional, quote unquote, traditional roles in religious views. And so there are people that, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? Obviously, everybody has their own way of living. But even if you're like, well, my beliefs are based on my religion and all these things, and this is what's acceptable, this is what we should be. But you should still listen to your partner, to your spouse. What are they saying? How are they feeling? Do they feel alone? Do they feel some sort of resentment for the fact that they're constantly home and like taking care of the house, taking care of the kids and all that stuff, and then not even a thank you? You know why? Because it's expected. It's expected. And if you're not doing that, then you're a terrible mom. You're a terrible partner. You're a terrible this. Oh, and then on top of that, make sure that you're ready to have sex and please your partner whenever they want, right? Yeah. On top of everything else. This partner that makes you feel insignificant. So how does that work? You know? And it doesn't. And that's what I'm saying. No. Like, so, because I was seeing like there's a rise in divorce rates. There's a rise in, partners that just separate. And there's nothing wrong, obviously. If you have to co-parent, you have to co-parent. But even with co-parenting, these things apply to that too. Because with co-parenting, the last thing you want is for the other to say, oh, your mom doesn't do anything. Like, to the kid, they don't know. My dad actually used to do that. And we grew up with my dad saying, oh, your mom's lazy because she doesn't want to work. And also, meanwhile, my mom's over here hustling, making sure that we have food and we don't get evicted. And we learn English in this new, We know how to speak and write and read and all these things that my dad didn't even bother to check in and make sure that we had food on the table or we had
Mhm.
a place to live. So not it's just crazy. I don't know. There's just so many layers. But when we stick to the main thing is if you're married to somebody and you feel like you're doing it all and you might as well be single, which is in the terminology,
Mhm.
then that's something that I think the point is to communicate. That you need to talk to your spouse, to your partner about how what they do makes you feel, or what your day is like makes you feel when you don't have the support that you need, and what does that support look like. Sometimes you have to lay it out,
Yeah, you
bullet point it.
do.
You
Yeah.
have to write it down, you have to bullet point it, prepare it. And I know that's exhausting as it is already, because you shouldn't, sometimes you feel like I shouldn't have to tell you,
Mhm.
and I shouldn't have to explain. But unfortunately you do, because this is your realm, this is your world. They're living in another world, in another realm.
Yeah.
So they need somebody to break it down. And I think if there's anything worth salvaging and like worth saving, is a relationship where there's a couple and then there's kids involved. I think you should, not just the moms, I mean, you guys should make every effort possible to make it work. Unless there's a situation where you realize you're just not meant for each other, right?
Yeah.
This isn't the right situation. People want to be with other people, whatever it is, right? That's different. But if you still love each other and you still want to be together, then why not? Why not take the time to sit down, jot it all down, and make it like a grocery list.
I was just thinking.
This is what we need.
Yeah.
This is what I need. This is what we need as a couple, as a house to function, as a family. This is what we need. And check it off.
Mhm.
What is that? And then explain it too. Well, I need you to ask me how my day was and make
Mhm.
me feel seen, make me feel valued. And, say thank you every once in a while. Because then they're
Mhm.
like, well, okay, I'll do that. And then they're like, well, I don't know how to do that. How do I do that? You say thank you every once in a
Mhm.
while. You say, oh, let me help you with that. Don't worry about, little things, whatever it looks like to you. And I think those are really important things to kind of keep in mind.
Yeah.
Um, with me, I feel like it's equal, very 50-50. Again, it's like
But
similar
that's
to
because you're
you.
home
Yeah,
also.
like we
Yeah.
obviously had the conversation beforehand,
Mhm.
because I was like, I'm not doing this shit. I'm not doing what my mom went through. I'm not doing any of that stuff. And I was still scared. Like, Tom and I have been together, what, 6 years? And it wasn't until like maybe year 3, year 4 that the fear was like, okay, this is, like, I knew he was the right guy, but there was still so much trauma from my childhood that I had to like work through it. And I had to,
Mhm.
and even into my teens and early adult life, I needed to know, somehow, have security in myself. It really boils down to you too.
Yeah.
I needed to understand that I can trust this decision that I've made in choosing this partner, because it comes down to how much you trust yourself and how much you've grown and what you know it is that you want and who you
Mhm.
are. Because you can't control another person's actions,
Yeah.
but you can kind of say, you know what? I can bet on myself that I made the right decision in choosing this person, because I already done the legwork prior to, and understanding that that is not what I want, right? Over there, he's actually the embodiment of what I want. And he's not perfect in the sense, like, I'm not perfect. We have areas of improvement always, but we're both willing to communicate. We're both willing to listen and to grow together. Like, he says it all the time. He's like, you taught me how to love, how to be in love, and how to communicate
Mhm.
those feelings and those things, because he's never had that.
Yeah.
And I've never had the security to be able to do that safely, because I would share my feelings and I would communicate and I wouldn't do all these things. And then I was constantly disappointed or betrayed or lied to or whatever it is. And now I have somebody that actually listens. And there were times that in the middle of my PPD, like when I had that, I would tell him, I was like, I would cry and I would go through things and I just feel overwhelmed and I feel this and I feel like I'm not doing a good job. And I feel, he's like, what do you need from me? You know, and I couldn't pinpoint it. I couldn't talk to him. I couldn't explain what was wrong, right? That was a different situation. But now with other things, I'll tell him, I'm like, I just need you to take on, you know, can I go to the gym for like an hour? And then and he's like, yeah. But now it turns to, he'll tell me, he's like, you should go to the gym. I got Derek. Don't worry about it. And whatever. And we'll take turns and we'll do that to each other. Like I'll tell him, you should go to the gym now. I know you're really stressed with work. You have a break right now. Go to the gym. I got this. Don't worry about it. But we're in tune with each other in that way. And also we're just together all day. Like we work from home together all day. Like we'll have the occasional, we'll go to the city separately. Like I'll do my thing. He'll go hang out with his friends. He'll bring the baby. But the baby's always with one of us. There's never been a day where Derek's not with one of us. So we need to, I don't feel like I'm ever, first of all, I don't feel like that's affecting us in any way. That's just our dynamic. That's what works for us. We don't have anybody that he can stay with. Yeah. Right. In that way. So we make it work. And he constantly tells me, like, even little things, he's like, well, thank you for filling up my water bottle. Thank you for, you know, doing the dishes. Cause usually he does the dishes, but sometimes he's like exhausted and he'll fall asleep on the couch. And I'm like, you know what, let me do the dishes. Cause he usually does the dishes at night. So that way in the morning, it's like a clean sink and all that. Yeah. Little things like that. Cooking, he'll never do cause we don't want the house to burn down. But, laundry, you know, I usually do it because I like to fold and I do all this stuff and whatever. But sometimes he'll do it. You know, I'll be like, yo, can you just do the laundry? I'm tired or whatever. He's like, all right, fine. Don't get me wrong. The laundry will sit in the laundry bag dried for like 2 days or so before it gets folded. Before it gets folded. But whatever, we'll survive. But he'll clean the bathrooms. We vacuum both, like we clean, but I'm more thorough with the cleaning. So it's just that, like, I have my way, he has his way, but it's equal in that way, you know? If that makes any sense. I don't know. People that are listening are probably like, what? I don't know. Oh, I hear the dogs. They must be home.
They think they're coming in.
Okay.
He's probably like, I've had enough of being outside.
But yeah, no, Tom knows, like with the research of certain things, like when I was doing sleep training or baby-led weaning and all that stuff, I'll send him articles and then he'll talk to me about it and he's like, oh, well, I found this, and like he'll send it to me. But we were both home. So like if I find an article, we're going to talk about it right then and there. And then we'll see like what's the best approach that we can both align together. So that way we're on the same page. Because there's no point in me starting something and then he's doing something completely different.
Yeah.
Right? So it's just, I'm very grateful. I'm very grateful that I have this type of partnership, because if it were any other way, I'm like, I might as well be single. I might as well not, you know, and I wouldn't be able to work. I wouldn't be able to go back to work and have another job, right? Aside from motherhood and raising kids, like I wouldn't be able to do that if I didn't have his support, because it's literally just us two. So I think we have to constantly communicate. There are moments where I find myself getting upset about something. I can't even think of it. Like sometimes, so he's a napper. I don't nap. So sometimes I'm like, I don't know. There's been times that has happened. I look at him and I'm like, look at him napping. How dare he? Like, how dare he nap? You
That's
know
like
what I
the
mean?
little devil Giselle on your shoulder.
But it's so stupid because we both were like exhausted or we didn't sleep well because maybe Derek woke up at night. We had to go get him from the crib, whatever it is. And I'm like, look, he could nap so easily. Like, who does he think he is? Then I'm like, what am I saying? Like, that's stupid. I could easily nap too if I wanted to. I just can't. It just doesn't come naturally to me. But yeah, it's very, like the grocery shopping, we do it together, you know, and we usually take inventory together. We don't make a physical list, but we go together. So we go through the same aisles, and we usually look and we're like, oh, do we have chips? Do we have milk,
Oh, so
eggs?
you're like an aisle by aisle couple?
Yeah.
We're like, list, that's all we're going in for, because he knows me. He knows
we
if
don't
I get
do
lost in those aisles, we're coming with double the shopping list. I'll be adding shit. I'll be like, ooh, I haven't tried that.
Yeah.
Ooh. No, you can't take, and that's another reason why he don't take me to the supermarket.
Gotcha. There are certain things that like he can go and get by himself, but things like the chicken he won't do by himself because he's like, I don't know. He's like, you like organic, certain chicken, this and that, or like when we'll do filet mignon, whatever. He doesn't know how to pick that stuff out. So that he'll rely on me. But everything else, he has no problem getting. So it's fine. But then there's times I like going because I'm like, ooh, they have cookies or they have, whatever it might be. And I'm like, I like to have certain things in the house so that if we have a moment, we're like, oh, we'll indulge here, which wouldn't make it to a list if we did have a list. Because there's no way I would write it down, like Oreo cookies. No, I would instantly cross it out. I would be like, no, because I'm going to eat the whole freaking sleeve. But yeah, no. I don't feel like I'm in that situation. I know you said you don't feel like you're in that situation. Advice for moms and parents that feel like they're in that situation, I think it really boils down to communication and being honest with each other about how you feel, and then coming to some sort of resolution about what it is that you want. You're right.
Yeah.
About what it is that you want. But it's better than being hot. It's like, what is it, 90 degrees out? 86 degrees out now. Oof. There was another part of it. The emotional part of it. Well,
but I was also thinking about, like, I've seen videos where moms are like, well, you don't want to do anything? All right. I won't do anything either. And then go a whole day and you see them videoing everything that's accumulating for like 3 days, and husband hasn't even picked up any of the stuff. So don't do that.
But then that's resentment and passive aggressiveness.
Yeah, don't do that.
You can't get anywhere together if you do those moves. I get it. You're trying to prove a point. I've been there. I've done that. But I can't go beyond, a certain time because I'm like, we need to talk about this. Don't get me wrong. We get into arguments about other things. Not any of this, like not like other life things. We get into arguments about whatever. And I'm like, I'm not talking to you for like a day or two sometimes. But we'll still be like, oh, go say hi to Dada. And, we'll act like normal until we're ready to talk about it, until we're not angry anymore about whatever it might be. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think that's a good approach. I don't think nobody's going to win in that scenario.
You're going to get stuck picking everything up anyway.
Yeah. Or you're going to get frustrated because you're going to step on something, and then that's when the rage comes out.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think that's another thing, like the toys in Derek's room, like before he goes to bed, like sometimes I'll go in there and it'll be clear. And I'm like, oh, he did it. Like I didn't even tell him to, like, he just does these things. And that goes a long way. So if there are any dads out there, because, I mean, not to discriminate or anything, but it's usually the dads that are, neglectful or whatever, where just do certain things. If you see something that's out of where it should be, like, clean it up without having being told, right? I think those are things that go a long way. Or even, like, you know what? I know you like to get a facial or go do your hair, go do your nails. Like, I got the kids. Don't worry about them. Because that's another thing. Even if we did have time, like, even when I was in the city yesterday hanging out, I was thinking, like, are they okay? What are they doing?
Because that's your brain's still working.
Yeah.
Mom mode.
Yeah.
Still
always.
there.
That's not a title that you go clock in and clock out for, right? Yeah. It's just a title that's part of who you are. And I think there's a double standard with dads. Like, they don't have that.
It's like they don't have to think about it. It's like, because it's already done most of the time.
Nobody says, oh, you're a working dad. Nobody says that. They just say dad.
Yeah.
Oh, you're a working mom. You're a stay-at-home mom. You see, It's just, so I think having all that and having those conversations before you even go into that stage, but if you already have kids, it's never too late. It's never too late to communicate and voice and fight for the things that matter to you. And that's gonna, create a better dynamic. There's
Mm-hmm.
no losing in that situation, you know? Um, but yeah, the emotional aspect too, I think, is huge. Like, you have to feel like valued, you have to feel appreciated, and you have to feel like you can talk to your spouse. Like, I can tell Tom, like, oh my God, he's being, like, when he was out, and like he's out now, like, if he's having a moment, like if Derek's having a moment because he's teething or whatever it is, like I'll text Tom and I'm like, oh, he's going through a moment.
Mm-hmm.
Or sometimes I won't because I don't want to ruin his time.
Mm-hmm.
And like I'll wait till he gets back, and I was like, he'll ask me when he comes back or when I come back from wherever we were, like, how was he? It's
Mm-hmm.
usually one of the first questions that come out of our mouth, like, how
Yep.
was he?
It's true.
You know?
Yeah.
And that goes a long way, because then that tells the other person, all right, like, they actually understand that what I'm doing right now and what's happening and raising a child is not easy. And
Mm-hmm.
we have our rough moments. So I think that's important too. And like, we'll talk about it. I was like, oh man, I need to go work out for like 10 minutes so I can decompress. I need to go stretch. I need to go listen to my music, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
Go for a walk. Little things like that. What other suggestions do you think might help?
For
If
what?
you're in that situation, obviously there's communication.
Talking.
There's,
Yes.
you got to talk about things. Sometimes you have to literally like lay it out step by step. What does that look like? What does support look like to this individual? Because what support looks like for me might be different from you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So those are those things. What else?
Well, I usually like I was telling you before, I tell him like straight up, like, hey, can you do this? But like if you want it in a specific way, be prepared not to get it in that way. Just
Yeah,
because if you're particular with certain things and you know you're particular with certain things for doing something, don't ask them to do it so you can get
yeah,
mad at them.
yeah, yeah. It's
Just
like a trap. It's like you're setting
make
up a
it make
trap.
yeah, make them do something else. Make them do
You're setting
something
them up to
else.
fail.
It's like with the shopping list. Sometimes he doesn't know what things are. I don't know what the hell I put on the shopping list recently, and he was like, he bought something totally opposite, and I was like, why'd you buy that? Like, what is that? And he's like, that was on the list. And I was like, no, it's like, I think two words were together and he couldn't find what I was looking for and he bought something else. And
Gotcha.
I was like, and I had to send him pictures. So yes, my shopping list consists of like pictures of actual products.
Oh, that's smart. No, that's smart. That's
Because
smart.
he doesn't know
Yeah.
sometimes, like, oh, what, I don't even remember what it was, but it was like two words were like right above each other. So it looked like
Yeah.
it was one thing I was asking for, but it was two separate items. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. But so I sent him little pictures of things like this is actually what I'm looking for, or this is the aisle that it's in for
Oh,
certain things.
that's the
Like
next level.
he was,
Yeah.
what was it? The kids got Biscoff cookies
Ooh, those are
from
delicious.
our chiropractor because they had like a lemonade stand set up for
Yeah.
us, and they were like, "We love these cookies," and Victor had the hardest time finding the cookies. He was like, "I'm in the cookie aisle. I cannot find these." And I was just like, "Hold on, give me 2 minutes." And I have to like go on the app and I'm like, aisle number 9, aisle number 9.
Perfect.
And he found them. And then he comes back home and he's like, okay, that was the
Yeah.
most difficult cookie to find because it wasn't in the regular cookie aisle for some reason. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
But I think just being very explicit on what you want done
Yeah.
helps.
Yeah.
But like you said, if they're not receptive and they don't want to listen or
That's
do
another
something,
conversation to have.
that's a different conversation to have.
Yeah.
Maybe
That's
therapy,
different.
like you said, bringing that up.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah, I
I
think
don't,
so.
that would be, I can't imagine being trapped where I'm saying something and someone's just like, I don't care, basically.
Yeah. Or yeah. Basically,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
really what translates. Like, I don't care enough. I don't
I
care
don't
about
care.
your feelings. I
Yeah.
don't care
I
about what
got,
you're going through
mm-hmm.
because I'm doing my part
Yeah.
by financially providing or whatever it
Mm-hmm.
is.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say too, like, it's not just because our dynamic, and obviously like we have different households, but like we have the same kind of equation, right?
Mm-hmm.
The same result, I should say.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But we have I don't know, I'm terrible at math. I'm not gonna do that analogy. Anyway, point is point is, even before when I wasn't working, he was still like very receptive and like still very open to having this conversation of what do you need from me? And then we also have to see what do they need from us. It's not one way, it's two
Mm-hmm.
ways. It's a two-way
Mm-hmm.
street. Because I feel like maybe they feel there are parts of their needs that are being neglected,
Yeah.
whatever
Mm-hmm.
it might be, right? Let's use a stereotypical one.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know, we're not having sex as often
Mm-hmm.
or whatever it is. So, you know, they're kind of resentful because of
Mm-hmm.
that, but they're not saying it,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so now it boils down to, well, why don't you want to have sex with me? Or, you know, go into that realm of conversation. And then it's going to turn into, well, I'm exhausted all day because I was running around, going to Target, going to the supermarket, getting things for the kids, picking them up from school, running around with them, dealing with these kids that have a ton of energy, and I'm exhausted. So the last thing on my mind when you get home is let's go have sex.
Mm-hmm.
When you made it clear to me that you don't see what I do as significant or valuable because you don't even ask me how my day was, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I mean. Like the stereotypical arguments, like those are usually things that we'll see on like TV that couples with kids will argue about, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
Have those conversations and dive in and see where their head's at. And then obviously you share your concerns, but remember, this is somebody that you fell in love with or you love, right? And you care for. They're not your enemy most of the time, right? They're not your enemy. So have a conversation with this person that is also your friend, is also here to learn how to love you, learn
Mm-hmm.
how to support you, learn how to engage with you and give you what you need. And it goes both ways. And I think that when you have that, even though you're going to have misunderstandings, trust me, I get it. I think that when you have that, I think that's where you can grow and you can move forward from whatever it is, whatever the wedge might be.
Yeah.
Because it's impossible to not, I think it's impossible. I think you and Vic are a unicorn. I think it's impossible to not have arguments and, you know, disagreements. I think those are healthy too to have because as long as you're having them the right way, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're communicating, you're open, and the person's receptive. And then you say, okay, how do we avoid this going forward? How do we move forward from this as a couple? And you don't bring it up again, right? You let it go in the past if there's true improvement. You don't bring it up, you know, a month or two later because you're having an argument about something else and then you
Yeah.
want ammo to throw into the other person's face because what's going to happen? That's just not, that's very ugly and that's just going to turn into a big thing. And I'm speaking from a place of those are all things that I used to do.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was in very toxic relationships and I was with abusive, toxic people because I thought at the time that's what I deserved. And that's, you know, obviously you don't think that, what's the word? Like, explicitly. It's just my subconscious. That's what I thought I was, I deserved at the time. And then I eventually became that type of toxic person. And I had to
Mm-hmm.
learn how to get out of that
Yeah.
and like not be in defensive mode all the time and guarded and hide my feelings and all that stuff. So just a reminder, this person you chose to grow a family with and to be with, that's your friend, that's your partner, that's the person you trusted, that's the person that is there to build a life and a future with. It's worth having a conversation. It's worth giving them the chance to fix the situation, whatever it might be. And you do it together. Because why not? You know, I don't know. Those are my 2 cents. I don't know.
I think you're right. It makes sense. Just from like thinking back, like my parents, like I mentioned before, they never had that conversation, and to this day, I get stuck in the middle. Me and my sister do when they argue because they're throwing things at each other from back in the day.
Yeah.
Back and
Yeah.
forth. And it's like,
Like, why are
you
you guys
should have
talking
had
about
that
things that happened
conversation with each other, guys.
30 years
Like,
ago? Yeah.
yeah, you should have had that conversation with each other, not bringing it up to us. And me and my sister are like, man, what is wrong with these guys? They
Yeah.
love each other, but they also love to hate each other.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
really bad. And now getting older, just seeing them, I'm just like,
Yeah.
you should have talked to each other. You could still talk to each other, and like most of their misunderstanding is just a communication thing.
Yeah.
So
Well, that's
just
the other
seeing
thing.
that, you
Yeah.
know.
Well, that's why you guys are so good at communicating too.
Mhm.
Like, well, that's why you're good at communicating, right? Because that's your example that you
Mhm.
had. Vic had, we shared the same dad.
Yeah.
We had that example. And seeing our mothers go through what they went through with him, it's just, you look at that and you're just like, all right, either you become that way or you go the opposite direction.
Yeah.
Right? It takes effort. It takes a lot of effort to not turn into your parents and to not revert back to what you were conditioned to believe as a child is the right way to do things. I hear them. They're home.
I think he might be crying.
Yeah.
He might be looking for me.
All right. So that's the end of the episode. Communication is key. And any suggestions and feedback that, you guys might have out there, please share with us. Amy has to go. I have to go too.
I know. Yeah.
Thank you guys for listening. We appreciate you so much. And
always remember, you're doing a great job.
You are. All right. Bye, guys.